Are you interested in ground up flex warehouse development? Watch this video to learn the step-by-step process that you need to do a industrial flex development, which is one of the hottest asset classes right now. Ron from Ronald, Rohde Law, and this video is going to talk about something that I've been getting a ton of inquiries. We represent people that do ground up construction, industrial, multifamily, build for rent, all that type of product. But lately I've been getting a lot of inquiries. And so I wanted to talk through this process because, as some of you may know, whether you follow the channel, smash that like button, subscribe. I used to be a former general counsel for a real estate developer doing this kind of greenfield development, which we bought raw land, we'd do the entitlements, we'd do the zoning, and then we would build vertical. And so that was my day job. I was general counsel for a larger real estate fund based here in Dallas, and that was my day job for over 5 years. And I'm going to walk through that process in just kind of a chronological, both the business side of things regarding the physical and then the legal structure, which is kind of parallel to that as well. Smash that like button, check out my book on industrial investing, and let's get started. So the first thing you need to do, I think, is identify a product type and a market. And those two things are really intertwined because as a result of your market study, you may find that there is a different demand for a slightly different product. And what I mean by that is people come to me usually with this idea of like, I want to build small bay industrial. I'm like, okay, great. How many units? What's the unit size? What's the number of buildings? How big is it going to be? All that stuff. And they say, well, I don't really know. And I say, great. Okay, well, do you have land that you already own? Maybe it's adjacent to an existing facility. Maybe you're under contract for something, because either one of those two things can help anchor your decision, right? If you already own land, let's say it's family land that you've owned for years, that helps you decide, okay, I own this land. What's the highest and best use for an industrial property on it? That's one way to approach the problem. The other is to say, well, I don't have land, but I've done a market study and I think that there's a huge demand for this type of product. So where could this product fit? Where could this fit in a certain city or a region that I'm targeting? But you have it narrowed down, because I'll tell you, I don't say that it's frustrating, but I definitely get a lot of pauses when I ask people, what is your anchor point? Do you have a product type? Do you have a budget? Do you have lender needs? Do you have land, or do you have all these other things? And truly, the answer is they don't. And so I think that's one of the problems with new construction, is that it gives you too many variables when you're starting off. As somebody who doesn't already own and operate flex type products, small bay industrial, light industrial, whatever you want to define it as, you don't really know what type of product you like. You don't really have a sampling of tenant conversations about, oh, we could expand if we had X. Oh, we really need one dock high loading door. And so that's okay, but I want this video to be for people who are thinking about it. And yes, is it a great idea? Absolutely. Can you make money? Yes. But it's not going to be something that's easy, because there is no defined path for new construction or development type projects. So that's what I propose, is buying an existing facility is easier. It's already done for you in a lot of the ways that the location has already been decided, a certain type of improvement is already there, and it's probably already cash flowing. So for a lot of reasons, it's better to step into an existing product first as your first investment and manage it, even if you're, quote, overpaying, even if you're not going to hit that home run. Your goal should be to learn how to manage a flex type product. You need to learn how to manage those tenants and how to create value to them on a monthly basis, versus trying to build something from the ground up when you've never even managed this type of investment before, right? A lot of these people are coming to me maybe from multifamily, they've exited, they feel like they have a big pile of cash, but the prices seem too high for everything else, and so they're attracted to industrial, kind of this value add development. Okay, so that's step one, is identify your market or conduct your market study to decide what type of product is in high demand. Step two is, once you have those, let's look at the site. I think your first conversation really needs to be leasing broker who can tell you what the rent comps are, to back up not just the asset type, but what can you actually lease this product for. Brand new, what would it lease for? So you can figure out your monthly cash, your debt service, as well as a possible NOI for an exit valuation. And your other conversation needs to be with your architect. And I'll fully admit, at this point, you really don't need a lawyer. I mean, if you already own the land, I can review your architect agreement, but mostly that's just going to be an hourly relationship. But you're going to need an architect, an engineer to lay out a site plan. And at a very high level, nothing inside those boxes is decided, but the site plan is really what helps you figure out your density, your coverage, your FAR, your parking needs, your drainage. That's a huge issue in Texas. So drainage, whether you need a retention pond, tapping into the sewer, a turn lane. And without a site plan, you really can't even go to, say, the city to figure out what they're going to approve or what they're going to need in terms of setbacks or visibility sectors, visibility triangles, those sorts of things. And that site plan is really step 2 of once you have a site, once you have a building type, a ceiling height, all that stuff, you need a site plan. From there, that's when you would probably start getting bids. Once you have a site plan, you can continue working with that architect to get a full set of construction plans. And that's where you're going to want to start bidding it out with a general contractor. Again, if you have experience, if you're local, and if you know a lot of subs, you can GC it yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Texas, great state. There's no GC license needed. If it's an owner anyway, you don't need it. That's probably the next step, is to go out and get hard bids, right? You've got your major trades. You need your foundation. You need your framing. You need your roofing, plumbing, electrical, concrete. Those prices have gone through the roof, and that's going to be a huge cost. Is how much is that slab and how much is your parking lot going to cost, given all of the parameters for detention. And I say this because now this represents, again, a huge commitment both in terms of time and money, but new construction is not something to be committed to with kind of casual intent. New construction is the ultimate highest value add in the commercial real estate food chain. And it is, again, the highest capital, highest equity requirements, and for the longest duration. So you're going to be putting money into the dirt. You're going to be putting money into plans, into fees, into vendors, everything, without getting a dime back in rent or even an exit. And so you really have to prepare yourself. Can I fund this project for 2 years at a minimum without ever getting money back? You call it 18 months. Okay, fine. 2 years until you get that first tenant check into your pocket. And that's really what you have to consider is, can I be committed to this project? Can I spend double my equity budget? Is that possible? Because you really need to prepare for those types of contingencies. But if you can do that, then you will get rewarded, for that 10x equity multiple. You're building this site for $800,000. You're putting $1 million, $1.5 million in, and then you can sell for $5 million, $6 million. That's kind of the difference in terms of value add. If you're doing new construction, you get huge multiples for selling an occupied, completed building, versus if you would have bought this existing facility for $4 million and then you sell it for $5 million, that is not a lot of gain, and you're just kind of relying on market increases or cap rate compression, whatever. There's not a lot of value in just doing it. I'm not saying it's bad. I think everybody needs to do it. And if you can build a big portfolio, I'd rather buy, personally, I'd rather buy 6 existing facilities and increase them all by $1 million versus putting all my eggs into one location, one basket of equity, and not getting any cash flow at all for 2 years to make that same $5 million return. So that's just my preference, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. What are we on now? Step 3, I would say, would be to sign contracts. And this is where it is important, because if you have a construction loan, that loan is really critical to understand what the lender is requiring, what their draw schedules look like. And in addition, the loan documents and the loan draw schedule needs to match what you sign with your GC or what you're signing up to with your subs. And I say that because some of the GCs, or I say most of the GCs, they don't want a lot of draws, right? They want as few milestones as possible, preferably loaded up front. But when they hit, the slab being poured or going vertical, they want to be able to get a big check, and they don't want a lot of fuss. They don't want a third-party inspector dragging it out, because what happens in a high construction period is that all of these third-party construction inspectors, they get behind. And just because you submit a request or you apply for a draw, they may not come out for 2 weeks. And that really sucks for your GC, but as long as those terms of the loan agreement and the draw are reflected in the GC to owner agreement, you'll be covered as the owner because you're just kind of a pass-through, and you say to the GC, hey, I think you're done, but the bank still needs their inspector to come out and give that blessing from their third-party inspector. I don't control their schedule, so sorry. And it's important to understand the interrelationship between all of these agreements. So you have your GC to owner, you have your subs to your GC, as well as the agreement with your lender, because that's where a big part of that money comes in. If you're funding it from your own pocket, that's a different story. You have a lot more flexibility, but again, I would advise you that you don't send out money, release money, until you can verify with either your owner's rep or your project manager that these steps actually have been completed and that everything is good to proceed to the next stage. And so, after you've started completion, I would say that the construction process is usually rather uneventful. It's going to take front loading of those contracts, and we do spend a lot of time modifying some AIA-based templates reflected for your situation. But let's take a look at those contracts. Once you're in construction, 9, 12, 18 months, whatever, that's pretty standard. I think it's rather uneventful. There's obviously issues that come up. You need written change orders, materials pricing, yada, yada. But by and large, the construction process, you're done. All right. Now, let's say we've got a completed building. You're going to get your CO. You still have your 10% retainage. Really important to hold leverage over any of your subs is that retainage amount. You have your punch list items, you walk through, you get your CO, you're green tagged, everybody's good, you've got this great space. You're simultaneously now working with your listing broker after you've started construction to try to get this pre-leased. And so let's say you've had a few leads, but you really don't sign leases until you're really confident that you can deliver the shell space on time. And that's really my advice is, yes, you want to talk to the leads, but until you're really firm on that date, you don't want to sign anything. You just want to keep people waiting in the wings. So now you're finished. Now you can sign. Hopefully you have some potential tenants that are interested. You want triple net lease terms. You want gross modified. I would really aim for the highest complexity that your tenants will stomach. And so in the beginning, you want to hold out. You want triple net. You want the easiest, absolute kind of triple net maintenance. You tell them you still have a warranty on the building, warranty on the roof, HVAC, all that stuff. Well, HVAC is another question. What is the level of build out that you're going to complete each cell? So you can do like a gray box, or you can do a white box. It really just depends on who your tenants are. And I would get feedback from your leasing broker on what tenants are expecting. How much are they expecting to spend both time and money on a TI build out? Because if they're going to come in and have a heated and cooled space, depending on, again, the size of your units and their needs, I would say if it's like not manufacturing, if you're going to limit kind of that office, go ahead and just do HVAC and just temperature control the office portion, because you're not planning on big office build outs. So your HVAC units are probably going to be appropriately sized. Not a lot of people are going to come in and say like, okay, now I need this whole thing office. I need you to HVAC everything. And so again, everything is a trade-off. And I would say that I don't really have good advice. I don't know how to tell you whether to commit to finishing out, say, a bathroom. A lot of these industrial little parks, they just have one office area and one bathroom, and that one ADA bathroom, and that's totally fine. Am I going to tell you to put engineered hardwood or vinyl? I don't know. Do I tell you how much to put on the vanity, or do I put a storage cabinet? I really don't know. Do you just spend the cheapest mirror, the cheapest sink, all that stuff? Probably. I mean, I think that's probably fine. How many cleanouts do you want to put? What kind of toilet? That sort of thing. Those are all very hard questions that you as a business owner have to decide. But the more you invest, you run the risk that the tenant comes in and absolutely hates it, and they don't want it, and they're not going to pay for it. They're going to rip it out and put something else. You run that risk. But on the flip side, if you don't finish the space out, if you don't paint it and you don't make everything pretty and functional and turnkey, so to speak, then you have smaller tenants that say, well, I don't really want to spend $30,000. I don't want to spend $50,000 and wait 2 months for a build out. I just need a simple space for my car repair. I just need a simple space for my, motorcycle engine repair, small engine repair shop. whatever you build me as a bathroom is fine. And so again, that really depends on your market. That depends on the size of your units and the sophistication of your tenants. Are they looking for this space 6 months in advance, or are they looking for this space the week of, the month of that they're ready to move out? That's really the question that you'll get from your marketing study, talking to your leasing broker, as well as driving around other sites and just looking at other spaces, maybe if there's vacancies, to see what they have built out, see what they're quoting on rent, see what the space condition looks like. And if you can charge a premium for offering a new product, or if they're all full, then you kind of have your answer, and maybe you can even do a hybrid. So now that you have it leased up, that's again another time to come back to your lawyer is, what do our leases look like? How do we draft these? What kind of insurance do we need? The triple net, property managers. There's all sorts of contracts that are related to actually getting a tenant in the space. You have tenant work orders. You have tenant scope of work. There's a lot of things that go into tenanting a building, getting their improvements, understanding the industrial park rules. You're going to have these issues, especially with a new facility. You have a lot of pride. You want people to take good care of your building, of the parking lot, all that stuff. And there is inevitably going to be some conflict. And so enforcement of your leases is critical. And I think it's probably more critical on a new building, because you just spent so much money to make this nice, beautiful space. You don't want people, conducting oil changes in your concrete parking lot, leaving stains in your brand new concrete, and it looks terrible. You need to have the lease explicitly prohibit such actions. It allows you to recover from the tenant for those expenses for you to power wash or stain that or acid wash it, whatever. And that's what I think, again, a lot of people, you need to figure out, am I a developer? Do I want to be a landlord? What am I best at? What do I enjoy doing? And what do I have the capital needs? And what is my expected return? Because if you just want to lease it up, I would say maybe you put less of a focus on the tenant, right? You need to lease this thing up in 6 months, in 12 months, and then you plan to sell it. You need to flip it. But again, with the interest rates and kind of uncertainty in the market, your timing is something out of your control. So you need to have some flexibility. And I would recommend having really good leases so that you could potentially own and operate this property for a long time, because you may not be able to sell at a price you want when your building is done. And so if you need to own this asset for 2 or 3 years after you've completed it, you're going to need good leases. So that's really about wrapped up. I think the final stage is you've completed the construction. Maybe you've transitioned that construction loan into a mini perm. That's a mini permanent loan. And it's a little bit less than permanent debt, but your tenants are leasing up. Let's say you're 75% leased. You're making good cash flow. Your basis is quite low. Your investors are happy. You're happy with the building. The warranties are up now. You're a year past construction. So you may have some vendor warranties on the actual hardware, but in terms of the general contractors and everything is up. Now you go to sell. Again, talk to your attorney, talk to a listing broker, investment sales on what the market looks like. And again, you're going to need your attorney when you buy and when you sell real estate. So reach out to the law firm and we can help you navigate to get top price for your property that you've put all your blood, sweat, and tears into, as well as ensuring that you don't have any legal issues prior to or post close. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to try to put more content about construction, about industrial development, because I think these flex buildings are very attractive. It's hard to make the numbers work. And my parting thought is just, this is a great testing ground, because any of the developers who are able to build these small flex buildings, 20,000, 30,000 square feet subdivided, 5 buildings, whatever. If you can execute and build something on time, on budget, the world is your oyster, and you can step into much bigger builds. Instead of making 5 million on one shot, you can make 50 million, because construction delivery is an incredibly difficult skill. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of Gantt charts, a lot of timelines. But the reason that there's not a lot of this product being built is because the people who can execute and deliver, they move on to bigger projects. It's simply not worth your time with land costs where they are, with labor uncertainty, the amount of risk that you're going to take for the construction to only make 5 million as an upside doesn't make sense. If you're going to risk that much time, go build the bigger project. So that's kind of my, observation from being in the industry so long, I get a ton of inquiries, and I don't know lately, but a lot of people want to know about flex development, single office, one dock high, one roll up or two roll ups. Everything is typically grade level, and you can build multiple single story buildings. It's really attractive. It's always in demand. But can you build it at a cost-effective price? That's the $64,000 question. But drop a comment where you're looking to build, and love to help you in all 50 states. So we'll see you next time.